Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation, brought to you by the great folks over at Zephyr Epic. You can use promo code Hockey Season, capital H, capital S, all one word, Hockey Season. That will get you $5 off your order at ZephyrEpic.com. That is ZEPHYR Epic. Check them out on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, whatever it is. They've got you covered for all of your trading card needs, so be sure to go check them out. They also have a retail location in Surrey, but if you choose to shop online, be sure to use our promo code and you will also get free shipping on any order Canada-wide that is over $50. So be sure to go check out Zephyr Epic. My name is David Quadrelli. I'm joined as always by the man who built the place, Chris Faber, on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Our technical producer is Alex Lard. Our clipper, intern Emil, is behind the scenes as well. Faber, you are opening a pack of hockey cards right now. You got the Upper Deck Series 2, which is available now at Zephyr Epic, and you're wearing a very nice collared shirt and a burgundy tie.
Yep. You know what I haven't worn in a long time is my traffic cone outfit. I was thinking about that the other day. You used to always say that I looked like a traffic cone. But I did pull a Canuck. How long is he going to be a Canuck? Time will tell. Connor Garland in that pack. So that's good. Okay, you got something off the top. You're talking about you're drinking things off of TikTok here. Let's talk about this before we get into any hockey things, because you said this is a wild thing, a beverage of yours that you've been consuming.
So I had this for the first time today. My girlfriend saw it on Instagram last night, and she said, "Hey, I'm gonna try this tomorrow." So what it is, you can order. I think the video was ordering it at Starbucks, but she just made it at home because we have an espresso machine. But anyway, 2 espresso shots and a protein shake with lots of ice. You put that all in a cup, you shake it together, and it's delicious. And I had it today for the first time, put it in the Yeti. Delicious, so good, high protein. Like, we buy the protein shakes from Costco, right? 30 grams of protein in those, right? Little shake thing. Get those. Amazing. Put it with the coffee. It's perfect. It's amazing. I love it.
Okay, so walk me through the ingredients here from top to bottom. What all it is ice and protein? What did I miss?
And 2 espresso shots.
Oh, okay. What flavor protein?
We have vanilla. It's vanilla, but it tastes like vanilla ice cream is the best way to put it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I get my protein stuff in the States now. You go down there and they got, I got birthday cake protein because I'm going to get back in the gym here soon. I got a little bit more time. I got no excuses. I literally am in an elevator ride away from going to the gym. So I got to get back in there. I'm not going to do what I did in November. That was the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. But, and I gained weight that month. I don't understand what happened there with this whole thing. But I don't know about that. But yeah. Okay. I can get down with, that's an interesting, so it's like an iced coffee protein drinkish sort of thing. That's what I'm getting.
Exactly. That's a good way of thinking about it. Like, I have it sitting in the fridge. I didn't drink all of it. I had like a tiny sip. I'm gonna drink the rest of it after my workout, which is coming up in the afternoon. So it's gonna be a good time. I'm pumped, man. I'm pumped.
I'm excited that you have 2 shots of espresso in you, because I talked to you at 7:30 this morning and you were not you were barely awake at that point. So I was glad that you had some espresso. I hope it hasn't worn off by yet, because we need some energy for today's show. You're only doing 2 shows a week. Soon we'll be doing 1 show a week. I don't know what's going on with all that. Yeah, that's what you looked like this morning, a snoozing dog. But we got hockey talk to get to. Where do you want to get started here? I think we should begin with hey, it's going to be another year. It'll be 30 years now, right? 30 years without a Stanley Cup for the Vancouver Canucks. The last time they won was a couple of weeks after I was born. So
for Canada, for a Canadian franchise, you just said the Canucks. They have never won a cup.
Don't worry about that. The Canadian team winning the Stanley Cup. It's been 30 years. What do you think?
What do I think? I think that there's not much to be said. Like, I don't know. Like, what do you say, Chris? Who's the next one? It's not Toronto. I got a lot to say about Toronto, and I'm saving that for a second here. Edmonton? Is it going to be Edmonton? Probably not going to be the Canucks. Might it be the Canucks? We're seeing, hey, retooling works. Look at the Dallas Stars. Look at the Dallas Stars. They're retooled. It works. Retooling works, folks. So, who's the next Cup winner? Who is Canada's next Cup winner? Because I know there was people saying after the 2020 playoffs when the Canucks were, very close to making the Western Conference final in the bubble there. People said, "Oh, it's the Canucks. The Canucks are going to be the next team to win the Cup for Canada." Not going to be them. It's not going to be them probably, but who's it going to be, Chris? Like,
Well,
who is it going to
yeah,
be?
I wouldn't bet against Connor McDavid winning a Stanley Cup, right? I think he's that good. I think he's also at probably, in the next few years here are going to be the best times of his career, probably when give him a chance to do that. So I'd probably go with the Oilers. I think having the best player in the world and having the best complementary player in the world in Leon Draisaitl, who, at times can make an argument that he's the best player in the world. But when you have those two players, I really think that's probably the team I would be going with. But it's not really another Canadian team that gets me that excited. Toronto's going to look. I don't know. I wonder if Toronto's going to look very different. I know you want to dive into them, so I'll let you handle the Toronto talk. But with the Oilers, I think that's my team. I think they're missing a couple of critical pieces to really getting over the hump of being able to be a team that represents the Western Conference. I don't think they're at that level. I think at times they are. Like we talked about it earlier in the playoffs, how good is Edmonton when they're on their game? Like there's nobody that can compete with them. You watch them score 3 goals in a minute and a half, and you're just like, okay, like not a lot of other teams will be able to do that. Not a lot of other teams have as high of a potential as the Edmonton Oilers do. They just seem to struggle to get their, to reach their potential. It's just such a difficult thing to do. And it seems like it's a different scenario in the playoffs as well, where you can reach your potential in the regular season. When you're over 82 games and it's, some games don't mean as much as the others, you can get by with a team that's that talented like the Oilers. It just feels like they're missing something that is going to help them in the playoffs. Like I know Connor McDavid's going to help you in the playoffs. I know Leon Draisaitl is going to help you in the playoffs. But when those guys don't show up and put up 3-point games, I don't think they have enough to get them over the hump. And I think that's the big difference is when you look at something like listen, the Kraken, I know they just got eliminated, but the way that they play, it doesn't rely on 2 players. It doesn't rely on 5 players. It relies on the whole team. And I don't think you can fully invest in that and say, hey, like, if we have the best 3rd and 4th line in the NHL, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. Like, it's not that far bent that way, but it's more about the team structure of it, of just how you are going to be able to compete in 7-game series. It's such a different look than how you are in an 82-game year. That's why I don't think the standings mean a ton. It really is just about getting there to the playoffs for a lot of these teams. And I think Florida is a good example of that. Vegas is another good example of that. And then it's all about hot goaltending at the time. And I think Edmonton's just missing too many of the pieces where I'm not confident that they're going to get hot goaltending at the right time. I'm not confident that their bottom 6 is going to be able to carry them for a game when they really need it and the big guys are getting shut down. I'm not even confident that their top end guys are going to be able to overcome a true shutdown line. And I think that was a huge example of what just happened to the Oilers in this most recent playoff series. Like, you could shut down the McDavid line and it's over. There is nothing that they're going to follow up with that after. And, the fact that they got McDavid shut down, they got Draisaitl shut down, it was a very tough uphill battle for the Oilers. And I think that's because they didn't have enough horsepower to kind of push them over the top from the bottom end of their lineup.
Ultimately, though, who cares? Like, that's what I keep
Yeah.
coming back to is I see this discourse of, oh, it's been this many years since the Canadian team's won. This is horrible. It's like, really? Why? Like, do you feel some sense of pride being Canadian if a Canadian team wins it? Like, that's not happening in the States. I'll tell you that right now. And Karan in the chat, the YouTube live chat said, does anyone actually care about Canada winning a cup? I
Yeah.
only care about the Canucks. Like, think about what we're talking about. We're like, oh, could the Leafs do it? Could the Oilers do it? Who cares?
I
Who
don't
cares?
care.
There are
I
other
don't know.
teams. Like, yeah, like I don't understand this, and I understand if you're a sports net or you're, in the national media, I get it. You want that Canadian team to win, I get it. But for us, who cares? Like, and the casual sports fan, who cares? That I see this all the time, and it's been a talking point, obviously, since we were kids, right, and started watching hockey. Was, oh, a Canadian team hasn't won it. A Canadian team hasn't won it. When's a Canadian team gonna win it? Who cares? Like, who cares? You want your team to win it. That's how sports works. Like, I don't care. Say I'm a Mariners fan. I don't care if another AL West team doesn't win the World Series. Like, I don't care. I want the Mariners to win it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how sports works. This idea that people should care that, it's won by a Canadian team. It's ridiculous. I don't even know why we're talking about it. This is because I don't look at
Well,
outlines and help plan shows. But True Sight with a good point, and this is always the other point that always gets brought up, is aren't most cup winners on US teams made up predominantly by Canadian players? And the answer is yeah. Canada turns out the
sure.
best talent. I understand it if it's the Olympics or whatever, the international stage, and you're rooting for Canada, for sure. That's totally different. But to say like, oh, I really hope the Maple Leafs or the Oilers end Canada's drought. Why? Who cares? That's also ending the Oilers and the Leafs drought, which is way funnier than the fact that a Canadian team hasn't won the cup in that many years.
Yeah, I just look at it as similar to. I don't think Canada's binding together to say one of us needs to win it, but I think it's interesting because I almost look at it like the Canadian teams. Like let's use Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, and Winnipeg as examples, just to start. They are the Dallas Cowboy version of the provinces in Canada, right? Like the Dallas Cowboys, everybody in Texas wants them to win. Does anybody else in the United States want the Dallas Cowboys to win? I guess if you're like a transplant Cowboys fan, but you're going to bet that a lot of people in Washington State don't give a damn if the Cowboys win or lose. It's more about just like when you only really have this, and I think it makes it interesting with the Canada versus USA debate because in my eyes, it's like look at the other sports too. Like baseball, you have one Canadian team. Basketball, you have one Canadian team. Then you can cheer for Canada because it is Canada's team. But it's almost like you're making the argument for getting a Canada's team like a lot of Americans are when they call the Cowboys America's team. The Dallas Cowboys aren't America's team. The Dallas Cowboys are Texas's team, and even you could say that the people in Houston don't even like them. So it's like my argument's a little bit flawed as well. As Lisa comes in here and says, no, Cowboys suck. Yeah, they have sucked for a long time. But it's just, to me, it's like no team is ever going to be Canada's team when they're in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're going to be a team from Canada if they get to the Stanley Cup Finals, but I don't think you're getting all of Canada rooting for them to break the streak because I agree with you. I think everybody wants to see their team do it. Everybody in Winnipeg wants Winnipeg to be the team that ends up breaking the streak. Everyone in Montreal wants to be like, hey, we were the last team to do it. We're going to go do it again. Like, I don't think Canada's fully getting on board with anything until like, and it's not like there's an American team that's like an anti-Canadian team either. So it's not like there's an American team you'd really want to root against. It would be different throughout the country of Canada. Like, listen, do you think the Toronto Maple Leafs fans care if Seattle were to win the cup? They don't care. Like, it's very different for Vancouver because it's like, hey, that's the expansion team that's just down the highway. I just don't think there's anything really about like Canada rooting for the one Canadian team. It's just, to me, it's more about the sport as a whole, looking at it that, yeah, Canada's sport is hockey. Like, we're very well known for that. Around the world, you see it. There's a lot of great Canadian teams, like everybody's kind of mentioning in the chat right here. There's a lot of great Canadian players on American teams. I just don't think you're ever going to see Canada fully come together on something. Like, there's always going to be a little jealousy that your city wasn't the city to be able to do it. But it is unfortunate that the Canadian teams and how they get their representation with fan bases being so huge in it, and I'll make the comparison again to the Cowboys, just like football is in America, like just like football is in Texas, that's what hockey is to these teams here. I think that's why it means so much, because does a fan base in Vancouver deserve to be in the Stanley Cup less than a fan base in Florida? Like, think about it. Is Florida, like, where is the Florida Panthers on the sports rankings in that state? Like 8th, 9th? Right? Like, we're talking NBA teams, we're talking MLB teams, we're talking college teams, we're talking high school football is massive in Florida. Do I think there's more people paying attention to high school football in Florida than there is the Florida Panthers? Potentially. Could you make any of those arguments about Vancouver? Hell no. Like, listen, I played high school football here in BC. Do you think anybody cared about it compared to what they do to the Canucks? It's not even close. To think that that's going on in the same league and that team gets to be in the Final Four and the Canucks don't, it sucks. It does suck. So I don't think anybody's really caring which Canadian team ends up breaking it. It's just the situation is strange. It's a strange thing that no Canadian team has won in 30 years. It is a little bit, I mean, the odds are just against that happening. So we'll see how long it goes. Maybe it'll be 40 years. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see how long it goes. But HF World Championships happening right now in Riga, Finland, and Tampere, Finland. Now, Artur Silovs, I wanted to talk about him. Artur Silovs' first game of this tournament was not the starter for Latvia against Canada. The starter, name slipping my mind right now, lets in 2 goals within the first 5 minutes. Silovs goes in cleanup duty, gets them out of the first period despite facing some power plays, in that first period from the Canadian side, turns them all aside, shows really well in that game, starts the next game, which is a back-to-back, and then yesterday, Latvia picking up their first win against Czechia at the IIHF World Championship. First win in the tournament for them, and first win against Czechia in the history of Latvian men's hockey. So that was really cool to see, and we have the clip here. Archer Silovs with a huge save. This forced overtime. This was going to be the goal that put Czechia in front and basically broke Latvia's back, because Latvia was bending but not breaking, thanks largely in part, I would say, to the play of Archer Silovs. This kid's impressive, Chris. This kid's impressive. I've been talking about him since he was 13, it seems. And I just, you know what, like, to an extent, it's a bit, sure. People get it. People like when I joke around about it. But in all seriousness, like, this kid could start NHL games next year. And I've said it before. Fire up the Artie Party music, by the way. I've said it before. With Archer Silovs, I've said it. This guy's going to play NHL games. And if there's an injury to Demko next year, he's going to play with Spencer Martin. That's what we're going to see next year.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing.
I like that.
He likes the sound of that. But Archer Silovs, we could talk about the goalie situation. Like I said, I didn't really prepare for today's show that much, so I think we should talk about it.
I got something. This
is old school. No, I want to talk about the goaltending situation. Do you want to get to something first there with the back? Because I wouldn't mind spending some time on the backup situation.
That's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Is I wrote about it today over at Canucks Army. We're going to talk goaltending, and you were the one, just for the record, that wanted to talk about this. So this is an old school Canucks convo, is what you were about to say, because neither of us did any prep today, and this is how we used to do the show: is just sit in a room and talk. So let's talk. Let's talk about the back of the goaltending situation.
Who do you think put that video in there of Archer Silovs? Come on, I'm still doing prep. I got graphics. Alex knows.
All right. This is the least amount of prep you've done since
in
we've
that
gone to the live
sinking
show.
ship that you're sitting on. I'm not going on that thing. Oh no.
Okay, let me talk here. I wrote a 1,500-word article for Canucks Army today. It's up now, looking at all of the UFAs and the RFAs that the Canucks have coming up. And it's an interesting list because the RFAs, look, you and I talked about this before the show began. It seems like Travis Dermott and Carson Foe are going to be the only ones that are gone from the RFA group. Canucks have 7 RFAs. We expect them to extend a qualifying offer to Vitaly Kravtsov, Ethan Bear, Akito Hirose, Niels Höglander, and Jet Wu. As the offseason goes on, we'll talk about these guys more, but the one guy I want to talk about is Colin Delia, who is an unrestricted free agent, along with Kyle Burroughs and Michael Furland. I expect the Canucks to walk away from all 3 of these. And we'll talk about Kyle Burroughs another time, I'm sure. But Colin Delia, let's hone in on him, because a lot of people have thrown out the idea of, well, he finished the season so strong, so maybe he can come back and be the 3rd goaltender. I think one thing that's gone very heavily under the radar, Chris, is the Canucks signing of European free agent Nikita Tolopilo from the Allsvenskan League. This guy took such a massive step in the Allsvenskan this season, putting up a .924 save percentage compared to an .898 the season prior, playing for the same team. Phenomenal goaltender. The steps he took this year, I know for a fact the Canucks are extremely high on him, if only for the fact that what he did this year is such a massive step. And there's reason to believe that not only can he play AHL games, but that he might be able to take that extra step next year and see what they can do with his game. And, you know, if the Canucks are targeting a goaltender, Ian Clark thinks he can do something with him, right? So I think a lot of people are kind of letting it go under the radar a little bit too much, because they're looking at, okay, what's the goaltending situation going to look like? To me, the answer is pretty simple. Like, I think Abbotsford is going to be a developmental hotbed for goaltenders next year. I think we're going to see the 23-year-old Nikita Tolopilo start alongside Archer Silovs. I think these guys are splitting starts next year, Chris. I don't think it's a bona fide starter and a bona fide backup. I think it's a 1A, 1B situation between these two. Like, Tolopilo has something to prove coming into next year, right? And look, he's going to be someone that we're going to keep an eye on, and I think it's kind of going under the radar a little bit too much, so I wanted to make sure I brought it up. I think that's how you're going to see for next year. And with that, Spencer Martin's your NHL backup. Like, that's all it comes down to is, look, they're paying Spencer Martin a one-way contract, which means he's making the same amount regardless of where he plays. His salary next season is $775,000. Cap hit is $750,000. $775 is a lot to pay a backup goaltender in Abbotsford. Because, hey, let's face it, Chris, they want Archer Silovs to start games, right? If you're going to have Tolopilo as well, you want him to play games as well. Those are your two goaltenders that you're trying to develop. Spencer Martin has shown that he can be an NHL backup. All of the criticisms of Martin came when Thatcher Demko went down, and people really don't understand how different the mindset is for a goaltender when you know that you're the guy, basically, right? Like that does weigh heavily on goaltenders. I'm not trying to say Spencer Martin's mentally weak or anything like that. I'm just saying that Spencer Martin showed that he can be an NHL backup, and it's not like he just forgot how to play goal this year, right? You know, although it might have seemed like that in his final 10 games, the NHL, or whatever people want to say, he went down to the AHL and he worked hard. Like, he worked hard to get his game back. And I know a lot of people look at it and say, well, Delia was the guy that finished out the season in Vancouver, so the Canucks probably want to keep him around. No, it was so that Martin could play a lot and get his confidence back. And hey, I'm fully expecting to see Martin be the backup. I don't think this team that's already strapped for cash, or excuse me, I shouldn't say cash, cap, like salary cap, I don't think we're going to see them sign a goaltender this offseason, Chris. And I definitely don't think we're going to see them re-sign Colin Delia.
Yeah, I think there's too many options that could potentially work to go and make a splash on something that you think will hopefully work. Like, that feels a little bass backwards to me. They have Spencer Martin, who, listen, the way the Canucks are playing, like, think about it. Spencer Martin, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't have a start under, or no, he started for Talkett, right? Like, he did get some starts. I can't even remember how many he got, but not a ton. I have to look this up. But I think Spencer Martin's going to be the backup because think about, yeah, he had a bad year last year. He was also thrust into a starter's position on a team that was horrible defensively, like absolutely horrible. The amount of scoring chances he would give up. It's funny to me, like, watching, because, you know, I went to every home game except for that week when I had COVID, but you can see the plays develop and you're like, hey, there's a goal coming right here. Like, you can see it a couple seconds ahead of it coming in. And it happens so consistently with, you know, Spencer Martin in net and the way the Canucks are playing defense early on in the season that I think this guy needs to at least be given an opportunity to be the backup under a new structured, a new standard, a new habits Vancouver Canucks team that's coming in next year, because everything's going to change and be better. I think you have to give Spencer Martin that opportunity first. And if it doesn't go well, you're right. You brought up the two young players, and both of them should be given an option. Hey, think about what a backup goaltender is going to do. He's going to play once every 2 weeks, right? Once every 2 weeks, probably. Like with Thatcher Demko, the way he's going, maybe 10 days, whatever it is. You have no problem with two guys down in the AHL who are on entry-level contracts, who don't require waivers. You can move these guys around very easily. And Archer Silovs has already proven at the point where it's like, hey, if you have to play him for 9 games next year, you're pretty comfortable with that. This Tolopilo kid, you got to see him for 4 or 5 games before you can even make an assessment. Spencer Martin takes up, 10 to 20 games early on the season. Even if he sucks in those games, you just go to the other option. Like, they're the going out and signing a backup that you really like as the guy, and you're going to pay him $2.5 million. No, go get a defenseman that makes $2.5 million. Go get a center for your third line that makes that money. The money can be used in a much better position than just spending it on a backup that you're feeling super confident in. And even at the same time, it's not like how much confidence can you really have in a veteran backup, right? It's like, it's not like that guy's going to save how bad the Canucks defense has been throughout the past couple of years. So I think they have the options in house. I don't think they need to go out at all. I don't think it's really should be on the radar of management even, like, unless there's a goalie that Ian Clark has handpicked around the league who's a free agent and he's like, I can work this guy really well, and he's coming in at like a league minimum contract pretty much to sit around and maybe be like a third goalie. Kind of like, it is good to have 5 goalies, right? It's good to have 5 goalies, but it's not like necessary. Like, the way that the Canucks goaltending situation is set up right now, they're fine for next year. I think they're going to be absolutely fine. And if, listen, a lot of people brought up, well, what happens if there's an injury to Thatcher Demko? Well, if there's an injury to Thatcher Demko, this Canucks team is once again screwed, okay? We've been saying that for a long time about this team. I hope the defense improves. I don't think it's going to improve to a level where good goaltending isn't needed still to get wins for this team consistently. So at that point, then you can really make an argument. But I also don't think that, hey, you go out and get that $2.5 million guy that Ian Clark likes, who's 33 years old. I'm not trusting that guy to be the starter either. Like, you're not getting a goaltender that you should ever trust to be a starter if he's making $2 million on your team. Like, I just think they're fine. They don't need to do anything ridiculous here. They don't need to spend any money on this goaltending position right now. They have it in-house. They already went out and got that Tolopilo kid. He's got some potential. Archer Silo have a ton of potential. Spencer Martin has potential to be a backup, and that's what I talked about when he was in the AHL. He was still developing. I know he's older. I know he's coming up on 30, but he was still developing. He was developing so that he could be in the role to be a backup next year. And I think that's what we're going to see next year as well. I don't disagree with what you said at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think they're set. I think they're set. I don't think they need to go out and get another guy, like you said, use that cap space elsewhere. Okay, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, moving to Örebro. How do you say it? Goes with Elias Pettersson.
Örebro.
Örebro.
It depends how you want to say it. The O with an umlaut on it, I believe is how you say it. It's like a U. That's why everyone's telling me, you're saying Huglander wrong. You're saying Huglander wrong. I'm just saying it the way he told me when I first talked to him after he was drafted. So, Örebro, like a U almost sounding, like a UH. I've been told like UHH is how you pronounce it. So, Örebro. But I'm not doing this whole Donnie and Dolly thing where they're ripping it and playing in the background. I know. I hope Alex doesn't have it on a hotkey over there. Thank goodness. But yeah, I don't think this could have gone any better in my eyes for where Jonathan Lekkerimäki is going to play next season. Would I like to have seen him in Abbotsford? Yeah, I think so. That would have been cool. Get him developing here. There's a very good development team here in Abbotsford. A lot of Vancouver guys are out there as well. We know what the Sedins do. We know what Mackenzie Braid does with the skating. Both the assistant and associate coaches there in Abbotsford do a great job as well. I just didn't think he was going to be coming over here. He's still so young. He's still 18. He's one of the youngest. Was he the youngest player in this draft, in this most recent draft class? I believe he was the youngest player. So the Canucks have taken a couple guys that were Swedes that are the youngest player in the draft class. They took Lucas Forsell a couple years before that. He was the other player. I was like, hey, as long as they can get him playing with another Canucks prospect, that would be ideal for me. So Farjestad was a spot I was hoping for to see him play with Lucas Forsell. But now he's going to Örebro with Elias Pettersson, D-Petey over there. Those two have played together at World Juniors. They've played together at development camp. I was sitting behind them on the plane when they were flying back from Montreal. They've been together for a long time. They've became buddies, those two. So I'm excited to watch them two play together. They're going to be 18 years old, playing next year, 19 when the season starts, and they're going to probably be getting a lot of minutes. Now, Örebro is exciting too because Leo Carlsson's there. He's an exciting young player. I would love to see a second line of Lekkerimaki and Carlsson playing together next year. That would be a lot of fun. And I just think it's the best environment for him to develop because Mikael Samuelsson, I can guarantee, is going to spend a ton of time working there in Örebro and spending a lot of time with Lekkerimaki and Pettersson. He spent a lot of time with them last year. He was traveling all over Sweden and Finland as well to work with some of these prospects. But now you get an opportunity to get these guys in there together with a coaching staff. You can send some other coaches to the to me, it is the perfect spot for him. He's going up a league. He's going back to the SHL where he had a ton of success during his draft season. And after what he did in the playoffs, teams were back to being interested in this guy. And I think that's not just SHL teams. I think that's Canucks fans as well. After Lekkerimaki was a point-per-game player in 15 Allsvenskan games, people start to care about him again. Is he the number one prospect? A lot of people are asking. So, it's a perfect landing spot. He'll be here for development camp. He won't be here for training camp. He won't be here for young stars. That's kind of all unfortunate. I guess that's kind of the L that you have to take when you are loaning a guy back to the SHL. But it's going to be an interesting year to follow. And to me, it's even better. I don't have to watch any more games. Can watch two prospects at once. I love it. So when they play Farjestad, are you kidding me? 3 prospects in one game? That's what I'm talking about. That's the easy work right there. This job's too easy, Quads.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Anything else? I know we have our draft talk. I got a couple things. Can we, before that, can we pull up these second round predictions, Alex? Do you mind if we do this now, Chris?
Yeah, we can do this.
Okay. Alex, let's get them up. Second round predictions. About a week ago, we did our second round predictions on this show. We could not have been more wrong. Faber, you correctly picked the Vegas Golden Knights, but that was it. For me, I went 0 for 4, not picking any teams correctly. Alex still has the Carolina Hurricanes, so he was right about that. So there you go. That was a tough one for us in the second round. And hey, we'll be back to give our conference final predictions, I'm sure, very shortly here, probably on Thursday's show when we come back here. But I want to talk about this, and Chris, I want to talk more about the Toronto Maple Leafs. I picked them. You picked them. Alex picked them. Gentlemen, we all picked them because we looked at this team and saw, okay, you know what? We all thought they were getting bounced in the first round, but hey, they defied the odds. They slayed the dragon. This is the team to do it. They got the heart. They got the character. Finally, Luke Shan, all this stuff, okay? We picked them. They show up in the second round. Actually, they don't show up in the second round. Absolutely appalling performance against Florida. And I don't care what anyone says. That team just has no heart. That team needs to blow it up at this point. They need to start moving out some of those core pieces that they have. I look at that team a lot like the Canucks teams right before the West Coast Express, right? Where they had some great pieces, but they could not do anything. They could not play as a team. They didn't have the heart. I hate to say it, but they didn't have the dog in them, right? And that goal that Sam Reinhart scored in overtime, to me, that was when the series was over. And it was over long before that, sure. But that was when I not only thought the series was over, that was when I started to get angry. As somebody who has no horse in the race, like obviously I picked him, whatever, doesn't really care about the Leafs. I don't care about the Leafs. Let's make that clear because it doesn't sound clear right now. I do not care about the Toronto Maple Leafs, but it pissed me off. Like, it pissed me off to watch that because I was thinking to myself, that's how the Canucks defend maybe in the preseason. Like in the regular season, if the Canucks did that, it would be called unacceptable by the captain and all this sort of stuff. We would see all this and it would be talked about a lot. You hardly saw anything. You hardly saw anything. You didn't see a coach calling them out. You didn't see, like, and I get it to some extent. Sheldon Keefe probably doesn't want to call out his team or whatever in the playoffs. I get it. But man, that was so unacceptable. Just nobody picking up Sam Reinhart. Everybody out for a toonie skate at Poirier. It was disgusting. Like, it was actually hard to watch. Made me angry that this team even made the playoffs because they're so good in the regular season. Well, I get all that. That is not playoff hockey. Like, that is not playoff hockey. It was embarrassing. That team is a bunch of frauds. I have nothing else to say on the matter. Just embarrassing. Like, we actually believed in them for a second. And I feel for Leafs fans to some extent. The Leafs fans that continuously say, this is the year, look at how good the team is. Look, we put up 100 plus points in the regular season. This has to be the year. Just wait till they get past a first round. Hell, we even bought into that line of thinking. Imagine being an actual fan of this team, this franchise, this team that continually just shoves crap down your throat in the playoffs every single year, and you keep buying into it. I'm done. I'm back to how I was before. I will never believe in that team again until there's massive changes. Like, I won't pick them for a series ever again, Chris. Like, first round series, I told you I wasn't even picking them in the first round. They defied the odds, beat Tampa, made me lose a bet with JD Burke, unfortunately. But yeah, and then I believed in them. I believed in them for a split second, and they blew it up in my face.
Do you think that you will believe in them next year? And I'm asking that because, I guess, do you think there's going to be big enough changes in Toronto? They got their core four, which is I hate that. The core four, I don't think all four are going to be back. I think there are going to be significant changes. I don't know if it's going to be massive reconstruction of the team, but like I think a player or two, and I'm curious to see, man. Austin Matthews, no trade, kicks in, July 1st? Similar situation to JT Miller. That could be very interesting with 1 year remaining because you can't, here's the thing with Matthews, right? Once that no trade kicks in or no movement, whatever he has there, once that kicks in, if you lose him for nothing and it's a new general manager coming into this spot, or if it's Kyle Dubas, no matter who it is really running the team, if you lose him for nothing when you could imagine the haul you get even for just a 1 year thing of Austin Matthews, right? Like, I don't know. I think he might be the guy. I think he might be the guy who's getting let go of that core four group.
I would sooner go with Mitch Marner. And it's nothing really against Mitch Marner. I just, like, actually, I guess it is something against Mitch Marner. I hate the way he talks in the media after these performances. Oh, we're not listening to you guys when he's talking to the Toronto media who, like, I'm not going to start on all that. I've criticized the team enough. I'm not going to criticize our colleagues in Toronto. But come on. being like, oh, we're not listening to what's being said in the Toronto media. It's like, actually, you might want to, because they really want you to win there. Like, they really want you to win. They really want you to start back checking. They want to see your team succeed. Like, that's what they want. They want to see your team succeed. So maybe start listening to them, even just a little bit, when someone says, hey, maybe they could have some proper defensive zone coverage. That might help them a little bit. Oh, we're not listening. Come on, really? Are you serious? I don't know. Like, look, I think Nylander's probably the guy that I would keep, or if I was a savvy team, I would try to grab and be like, look, you got to blow up your core four. We can take Nylander off your hands. I like William Nylander. I think he's going to be someone that finds more and more success kind of as he goes along here. Mitch Marner, I think you could get a lot for if you're the Leafs, and I don't want to talk too much about the Leafs here, but also, Alex had this Leafs core 4 graphic ready to go. Shout out producer Alex. Goes over to the Leafs morning take folder, I have to assume, and pulls that out with the Leafs playoff stats. So, look, we're not going to talk too much more Leafs. I just wanted to get it out there as we wrapped up our second round predictions. I was appalled by this team.
When you look at the Leafs core 4, and we have the graphic up on the screen right now, who would you most want to root for on another team? Out of these 4 players, of Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, or John Tavares, because I think it's, I think everybody would, the majority I feel like would agree it's Nylander, right? I think that's where I would think the majority would go, because he isn't like, when you talk about the big 3 in Toronto, that's not him. But it's also like he's been the guy who's produced well throughout the playoff runs that they've gone on. And I guess runs is a little bit of a stretch because this is the first time they've gotten past the first round. But like, he would be interesting on a lot of other teams. And I would be not necessarily rooting for him, but absolutely rooting against him less than I would if he was stayed on the Leafs, right? Like, I think he's the player there. I also would like to see Austin Matthews somewhere else. Right? Like, what would Austin Matthews look like anywhere else? Like, pick a team. It would be cool to see him on a different team. The guy can shoot the puck like no other, man. I think it'd be interesting to watch. John Tavares, I think, is the one who's going to stay for sure. And I think Mitch Marner is the other guy who's going to stay for sure. I think it's one of either Matthews, and that would be an absolute blockbuster deal. It would be, NBA type of offseason move if we saw that happen, which would be awesome. But I do think it's going to end up being Nylander. Just that's the way things kind of play out. But I can also see a world, and then honestly, I would project this as the most likely outcome. I bet they run it back. And I bet they screw up again in the playoffs.
Yeah, like, they're not going to run it back. There's got to be changes coming. I disagree with you that they're going to run it back. I would say it every other year. I don't think they're running it back this year. I think this was the final straw. Like, you got passed around and it was Bud Light delivered to the room, all that sort of stuff. They won 1 round, Chris, and then they didn't show up in the second round. They had the pathway. They didn't show up. What more can you do with this team? It's not a matter of now they know what it takes to win in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? Because if they learned that lesson, they forgot it within 3 days. Those Bud Lights that were getting delivered to the room made them forget it, clearly, because holy cow. That was embarrassing. That second round showing was embarrassing, and no one's talking about it. Like, no one is talking just how badly that team played when it actually mattered. Like, they controlled some, maybe even most of the games in that series. But when it really mattered, they just didn't show up. Like, that OT goal alone, which they allowed Sam Reinhart to just dance all over the ice. No one took the body on him. You put one Kyle Burroughs on that team, and someone's taking the body. Like, that was embarrassing. That was embarrassing defensive zone coverage, Chris. That's not playoff hockey. And you got to make changes. It just, and hey, like, I know people say like, oh, well, none of the core 4 were on the ice for that goal. It starts with those guys, right? Like, those are your culture carriers. Those are your guys that set the standard. There's no standard. In Toronto right now. The standard is let's get out of the first round, and they did it, and then it was over. Like, embarrassing. I'm done. I'm not done. I'm not going on more.
All right. Yeah, we don't have to spend any more time on Toronto. Chat's not happy about it. Let's quickly wrap this up.
Why not? I've never seen Marner and Quads. Have you ever seen them in the same room?
Not in the same room, actually. Now that I think about it, yeah. Quads, give me a snarky little look on your face. Get real close to the camera and say we're not listening to the noise outside of the room.
Holy cow! Outside the room, we're not back checking.
Say how much you love Toronto.
I'm not doing that. Let's go. Move on. Let's go.
All right. Here, here's what I think we should do. Let's do our pick to win the Stanley Cup before we get into the draft talk. I think Alex should go first. We cannot pick the same team. It'll go Alex, Quads, and then myself. So after we do our 3 picks, we know who the Stanley Cup champion is going to be because we have horrible predictions. Alex, of the 4 remaining teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Dallas Stars, the Vegas Golden Knights, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the Florida Panthers. Alex, who's going to win the Stanley Cup?
Before I say anything, the reason I picked the Oilers and the Leafs was it was a business decision on behalf of the company. I did say the Tampa Bay Lightning were no test in the first round. But anyway, I'm going to take the Panthers. They're going to continue their Cinderella run. There's always one. And I'll take...
No, that's it. You just get one.
How many Stanley Cups do you think they hand out, Alex?
I didn't know we were picking that. Sorry, I wasn't listening, I guess. I thought we were picking a winner on each conference.
Well, let's do that. Let's do that.
No, let's just do... No, I just want one because I want there to be one remaining team because that's going to be the one that wins because we start projecting. So, Alex, do you want to stick with the Panthers as your cup winner?
Yeah, I'll go Panthers all the way.
Okay.
So I too was going to go Panthers, but in the spirit of the game where I'm not allowed to pick another one, I least think it's going to be the Dallas Stars. So I think I should say the Dallas Stars. I most hope that it's the Carolina Hurricanes, and I'd like to see them. I'd like to see them do it. I picked New Jersey to beat them, but I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the Carolina Hurricanes. I would really like to see Rod Brind'Amour win a cup. You talk about, sense of pride for Canada. Rod Brind'Amour, there you go. Good Canadian kid behind the bench there in Carolina. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Rod Brind'Amour win a cup as a coach. So I will go with the Carolina Hurricanes.
All right, so both of you have picked the teams out of the East. I will go with the Dallas Stars. So that means that your 2023 Stanley Cup champions will be the Vegas Golden Knights because we will get all of this wrong. Okay, let's get to the draft talk because odds and ends was just going to be Archer Silovs, by the way. So you jumped the gun on that one. Craig Button put out his list, and I found some interesting names that I decided to put some yellow lines under to talk about. As well as, by the way, we do have some prospect interviews coming up next week on the show. So excited for that. This blew me away. So Craig Button of TSN, Axel Sandin Pellikka comes in at number 5 on Craig's list. I am shocked by that. I've watched a lot of Axel Sandin Pellikka. There's also a reason why I haven't wrote a big feature article about him yet because I don't think he's a good option for the Canucks at 11. Craig really likes this player. I heard him talking today on Donnie and Dolly about this. I just don't see it. I see a player who thrives in the J20 league, and I think he's that good in that league that he can do well, but there's a reason why he's not having success in the SHL, and that's because players that are bigger and stronger are able to control him. It reminds me of myself at 12 years old when I was 6'2". I was a hell of an athlete when I was 12, but when everybody else started getting taller and bigger and stronger, and I didn't, I wasn't as good as an athlete anymore. So I think, Axel Sandin Pellikka is going to be in the NHL at some point. I don't think he's the top 3 defenseman in this draft. Like, I don't think I'd be going with him in the top 3 at all. I found that shocking. And then at number 11 going to, this isn't a mock draft, but it's the spot where the Canucks are. So we'll talk about it, especially the fact that it's a local kid, Nanaimo kid, Matthew Wood, coming in there at number 11. How would you feel, Quads, if the Canucks walk away from this draft with Matthew Wood at 11?
We talked about it on the last episode. He doesn't seem like he's going to play center at the NHL level. I know we talked about on the last show that you and I weren't impressed when we watched him when he was 16 years old, but obviously he's developed there. Looks a lot better in the NCAA than he did in the BCHL as a 16-year-old. So I don't know if I would be upset about it per se, but the fact that we're not sure if he's going to play center, I think that should give you a little bit of pause. The one thing I want to ask you about Craigslist is Craigslist. At 14, Zach Benson. That has to be the biggest surprise aside from Sandin Pellikka, is it not?
No, I've got Reinbacher at 24 being the biggest surprise in this draft. I don't think Reinbacher is getting out of the top 10. So to think that he's at 24, on Craigslist is the biggest drop. I also like Oliver Moore at 16 is pretty damn low for him too. But hey, Craig also really likes Tom Willander, who I also really like. I think Willander's in the conversation with Reinbacher for the number one guy. I think Willander's a better defenseman than Sandin Pellikka. This is what I think about Sandin Pellikka. He plays like he's better than everyone, but he's not. Like he plays in his mind like the puck hog in gym class, who, listen, you might get away with that if you're the kid who's playing in the dub and you're in gym class in high school, but you're not going to be able to get away with that when in the SHL. And he was able to get away with it, and he'll do it. He'll look good at U18s, like he did. There's a reason why he shot up a lot of people's rankings after the U18s. He looked really good against the bad teams in the U18s, but it's going to take a lot of work for him and a lot of changing the way he plays for him to have success in the NHL. I don't think he's at that type of skill level to have a Cale Makar type impact, but he's going to go out there and try and play like Cale Makar. And that's what he does at the SHL level. He didn't change his game at all, and it hurt him, I think, in the SHL play. So I'm a lot lower on him than I am with, any of the other first-round projected defensemen. So I was blown away a little bit that Reinbacher was all the way down at 24, and Oliver Moore down at 16. Like, I guess he can get around there. But I think Zach Benson, there are quite a few knocks on this kid, right? Like, he's probably going to be, he is a winger. He's smaller. He's dynamic for sure. Like, I think a team picking around 15 is going to be happy getting Zach Benson around there, but I don't think he's a top 10 lock.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, David Reinbacher at 24, you just said it. Like, that is very, very surprising. There's a joke in there about if things go the way of Craigslist, maybe the Canucks can get a deal. Get it? Because Craigslist?
Yeah, no, I get it. Does anybody use Craigslist anymore? Like, people look at Craig Button's list, but like Craigslist, because everyone's on Facebook Marketplace now, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's what it feels like, because at least you can see the person. I had that the other day. I was trying to buy a couch, and because our couch, you've seen my couch, Quads, it sucks. It sucks so bad. I need a better couch, and I was looking, and this guy it was one of those, when you get a troll on Twitter and it's like created May of 2023. This person's Facebook profile was created in May of 2023. So I'm like, I'm not going to this person for the couch. I'm still looking. It's tough. So if you got a nice couch, hit me up in the DMs. I need a couch.
I just redid the bottom of my couch with a staple gun. Went to Fabricana, bought some fabric. I had to redo the bottom of it because Bert found a little hole. You were there the day that hole was created in the couch. I don't know if you remember that. My dear friend, who will remain nameless, as you and two other of my friends were helping me move in my first apartment when I was 21, bought this brand new couch. My friend, who will remain nameless, couldn't find the legs for the couch. They set it up. It was on the ground with no legs. I said, that couch has legs. They flip it over, stabbed the fabric to pull the legs out, did not see the zipper that was there to get them out. So there was a hole in the couch that Bert, the puppy, quickly found and took advantage of, crawling underneath the couch, and he found his way into the couch, kept doing it. So one day I said enough was enough, and I just redid the couch. It's very nice now. Hey, the bottom doesn't drag along the ground. It looks very nice.
Good. Mine's got a problem with the cushions. The cushions, where the cushions meet, you want there to be a little bit of sturdiness where they meet. Mine, they just seep. So each part of the cushion, come on, it's 2023. Can we not get some good couches? This was a brand new couch that I bought, and not even a year into having it, sucks so bad. And then, you know what? It's because I made the huge mistake that I told you not to make, Quads. We didn't go sit on it. You gotta, if you're buying a couch, you gotta go sit on it. You can't be buying couches online. I don't care how good the rating is on them. You gotta go sit on them. You gotta go buy them at these places, or at least find somewhere you can try it out. Because they tell you go and you sit on, you buy one of these couches. We got them online, Wayfair or something. Worst couch in the world. I can't wait to get rid of it. Can't wait to, I'm willing to burn it. Like, I think it would feel good to go out to my parents' place or something, set it up in the yard and burn it. Like, just burn it. Watch it burn, because I hate this couch so much. Give me back pain, neck pain. Anyways, next show.
Well, I was just gonna say, let me get this in. Let me get this in. I forgot that you helped me couch sit when I was looking for a couch, because you were my watchful eye as I was getting ready to move out. You were saying like, hey, let me take you couch sitting. And we went and looked around at couches. And that was, I remember that actually, because I was going to buy one off IKEA. And you said, don't do it. Although you could have sat in it, but you said you're like, get a nice couch. And I bucked up for that couch. That couch, it bucked up.
Wait, how many couches did you guys go and look at?
Well, that's the thing. Here's what the point was. When we went in there, Quads sat down on the first couch. He's like, oh, I love it. I'm buying it. And I'm saying, no, like you can't. And then the next couch he sits on. He's like, I love it. I'm buying it. And then the next couch, he sat on at least 5 couches. You sat on all of them and tried to buy all of them in the store at the time. Like, no, we're going to this next place. I wish someone would have done that to me with this couch. But yeah, it was at least 5 to 10 couches.
Oh, yeah.
We need to do this again.
I went to, yeah.
This needs to happen. And there's like, you're going to get a couch out of this, Faber, but there's got to be like a couple, 5, 6, 7 couch stores in Vancouver. And here's what I'm doing. It's going to be a live contest on YouTube.
Right. Poll question for our good friends there at Atlas. No, all I need is a couch. Here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for length from the back to like where your legs hang off. I want that to be long. I need that because then you can kind of like cuddle up and crouch into it in the corner, you know. On my couch, it's so short. It's like 30 inches from the back to the edge of the seat. I got a big ass. I can't be freaking sitting on there sideways or diagonal or anything. That's what I'm looking for. So I need the length there. I like the chaise, so I'm looking for a chaise. That's what I'm looking for. That's all. That's what I need.
Chaise.
I'll find. Yeah, just a nice chaise.
This odds and ends edition brought to you by Atlas Goods. We'll have a poll question on Thursday. But don't forget to check out Atlas Goods. You mentioned them there. Promo code CC15 is the one to get yourself pop rinds for 15% off at atlasgds.com. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, prospect interviews coming back on the show. Got an exciting one coming up. Might be Thursday. It might not be. It might have to wait till next week. But we have some really good ones lined up. A lot of players that the Canucks could be picking at 11. We have a couple more than we've already talked to David Reinback. If you haven't checked that out, go back and listen on the podcast or check out the full interview is on YouTube. But we have another great option coming up soon. And also one guy coming on the show who the Canucks will not be able to draft. But that'll be a good interview on the show down the road here. Very excited for that one. So that's all I got. We'll be back on Thursday. So appreciate everyone. I saw the numbers jump up pretty good here later on in the show. I don't think it was because of the couch talk. I'm surprised the numbers haven't dropped off a ton because of that. We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to spend a lot of time on the draft. But hey, the Canucks keep giving us a little teeny tidbits of news to get us through 45 minutes. And it feels like we've gone long throughout the offseason here so much. So that's good. But I'd like to get an episode here where we just really dive into the best options for the Canucks at 11, because I've been watching a lot of video lately and I'm ready to go, whichever player you want. So we'll spend some time maybe on Thursday with that, and we might even have an interview. We'll see what happens. So that's all I got. Burt Cam on the right there. He's starting to wiggle a little bit. He was barking last night too. Quads, you and I were playing Rocket League last night, and he's barking up a little bit. He was not having it.
Yeah, he was not happy that I went into here to play video games instead of playing with him. So yeah, he let it be known a little bit there. But yeah, it's almost time for him to eat, so that's why he's waking up. So with that, we'll close it out there. For my co-host Chris Faber, our technical producer Alex Lardon, of course, intern Emil behind the scenes, my name's Dave Quadrelli. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation.
Boom. Get out and enjoy the sun. Or don't. Whatever you want.
Thanks for listening to Canucks Conversation. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
How about keep it to a thank you, Jim?